be honest. When my school president was first announced, I didn't expect it to become one of my favorite high school BL dramas. I've watched plenty of school romances before, so at first I only clicked on the episode 1 because it was another GMMTV series. But within the first minute, I already knew this one felt different. The editing was incredibly energetic. The background music, the sound effects, the colorful visuals, the quick pacing, everything worked together to create one feeling: youth. Even before I knew the characters, it already made me feel excited. It didn't just introduce the story, it introduced the energy of the series, and surprisingly, the premise itself was refreshing. Gun wants to become school president to protect his music club. Tin wants to become school president too, but not because he wants power. He simply wants to protect Gun's club because he's secretly in love with Gun. Gun spends half the story believing Tin is trying to destroy his club, while Tin is quietly protecting it from behind the scenes. I loved that setup. The energy of youth. The thing I love most about my school president isn't actually the romance, it's the energy. Every character feels alive. You can feel it in everything they do: the determination to protect Chinjila, the excitement before every performance, the courage to chase impossible dreams, the way they refuse to give up after every setback. Watching them reminded me of my own high school days. My friends and I were just like that. When it was time to study, we studied. When it was time to play, we forgot everything else. When we failed, we cried. Then we stood up and tried again, and when we succeeded, even something as simple as passing an exam felt worth celebrating. Looking back now, those ordinary days were probably the most extraordinary days of all. I think that's why my school president feels so comforting. It doesn't remind me of the perfect high school, it reminds me of the real one. Tin and Gun. I also love the way this series approaches romance. Instead of dramatic confessions or love triangles, it lets two people slowly understand each other. One moment that stayed with me was TU introducing the famous 36 questions that will get us closer. At first I laughed. It felt like an old trend. But the more I watched, the more I realized something. The questions were never the important part. The answers were. They talked about dreams, childhood memories, fears, regrets. Little by little, they stopped becoming classmates and started becoming people who truly understood each other. Maybe that's how every meaningful relationship begins. Not because we suddenly fall in love, but because we slowly allow another person to see the parts of ourselves that nobody else gets to see. Another scene I absolutely love is Gun's hesitation. He wants to know who Tin likes. Deep down, I think he already knows the answer. That's why he keeps asking. But at the same time, he isn't ready to hear it. Fourth portrays that emotion beautifully. Curiosity, excitement, fear, hope, everything appears on his face at the same time. For such a young actor, that's incredibly impressive. Gemini deserves just as much praise. Tin isn't the type of character who constantly says, "I love you." Instead, he proves it. Again and again, Gun misunderstands him so many times, yet Tin rarely argues. He simply keeps helping. One small action after another, until eventually, Gun believes him. I really admire that. Because trust isn't built by beautiful words, it's built through consistent actions. Chinjila. Another reason I love this series is Chinjila itself. Gun may look clumsy and emotional, but underneath all of that, he's a wonderful leader. He worries about every member. He celebrates with them, he fights for their dream, and when necessary, he isn't afraid to put the team before himself. He's not a perfect leader, he's simply someone doing his best for the people he loves. And speaking of the cast, everyone deserves praise. Yes, everyone. The chemistry among the actors is incredible. Their reactions, their timing, their friendship, nothing feels forced. Watching them together never felt like watching actors pretending to be classmates. It felt like watching real friends. I honestly think that's one of the series' biggest strengths. Win and Sound deserve a special mention too. Every time they argued, I found myself shipping them even harder, just as Tu always said. Their enemies to lovers story was funny, charming, and surprisingly natural. Winnie and Satang brought so much life to every scene they shared. Music. Of course, we have to talk about the music. Whenever someone mentions my school president, the first thing that comes to my mind is its OSTs, and I don't think that's a coincidence. The songs aren't just background music, they're part of the storytelling. Every episode ends with a song that perfectly reflects everything we've just experienced. Every week, I found myself wondering, what song are they going to give us this time? As someone who loves music, that became one of my favorite parts of the entire series. Sometimes it didn't even feel like I was watching a school drama. It felt like a musical that happened to tell a love story. I also loved the Just Being Friendly parody music video. From a production standpoint, I thought it was a brilliant idea. The song already represented Tin and Gun's relationship. Turning it into a new music video made the experience feel bigger than the series itself. It wasn't just bonus content, it became another beautiful memory for the fans. Episode 11. If there's one episode that stayed with me the most, it's episode 11, the episode where Chinjilla loses. I actually loved that decision, not because I wanted them to fail, but because it made the story feel honest. Most stories let the main characters win. My school president didn't. Instead, it asked a much more important question. What happens when your dream doesn't come true? Gun cries, Win cries, everyone starts blaming themselves. Little by little, disappointment turns into frustration, and frustration begins hurting their friendship. Then Gun says one sentence I'll never forget. I wish for you guys to not regret being in this club. That line changed everything. Winning isn't the only thing that gives our journey meaning. Sometimes, the greatest reward is simply finding people worth chasing a dream with. Then the series ends the episode with one beautiful message. The music of their youth ends with graduation, but a bond built on true friendship stays forever. I don't think that line only belongs to Chinjilla. I think it belongs to all of us. School ends, competitions end, youth eventually ends too. But the friendships we build during those years can stay with us forever. Final thoughts. My school president isn't trying to tell the most complicated story. Its magic comes from something much simpler. It reminds us that youth isn't remembered because everything went perfectly. We remember it because we laughed without thinking too much. We dreamed without worrying too much. We failed, stood up again, and had people beside us through every step of the journey. Maybe that's why, even after finishing the series, I still smile whenever someone mentions its name, because my school president didn't just remind me of my favorite BL. It reminded me of one of the happiest chapters of growing up, and honestly, that's something I'll always be grateful for. Exploring the stories that stay with us, one scene at a time. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in another scene and another soul.